Okay, this is to show you how to fix the keypad in the Panasonic KX-TGA300 and KX-TGA600 phone. The model number right here. So this is KX-TGA and then 300 or 600. Any letters after that are color and country codes, and you can ignore it because it's the same internal parts. So to repair it, what you're going to need is a small Phillips screwdriver and a small flathead screwdriver. Some rubbing alcohol, isopropyl alcohol. I like 91%. Has less water in it. And a cleaning rag, maybe Q-tips or a toothbrush. So what happens is dirt and oils build up inside the keypad, and it stops them from working. Get a different screwdriver. Yeah, the oils and dirt get in there and stop it from working. And this membrane keypad goes between the original keypad and the circuit board, and it replaces the conductors, the conductive parts. These black dots are conductive, and it also blocks out any oil and dirt from the future. So once you've got the two screws on the bottom taken out, I like to grab it and sort of pry it apart a little bit at the bottom. And this snap came out already. There's a snap here and here, and then one up here, and two more on the other side. But basically, just you not want to do a lot of pressure because there's a speaker back here and a wire you'll rip right off. Just put some pressure on there, and then we're not prying. We're just taking the flat screwdriver, or maybe you have a different kind of prying tool, and just slide it up between there, and it pops right out. If you get up to the point where really you can't push it any farther, just a little tweak like that. Oh, there's another clip. So there's one down here, one here, and the same on the other side. Now at this point I've got this side out. Sometimes I'll just wiggle it like that. Yeah, see, it popped right off. I'm just wiggling it back and forth. They popped off, but if it doesn't, you can flip it over and do the same thing. We're sliding that up. As soon as it catches, just tweak it a little bit. It should pop out. Now this phone, we've got, this might fall out. It's a light pipe for letting you know the phone's ringing or messages. That could fall out. It's stuck in there pretty good, but it'll fall out. So just when you put it back in, you can't really put it upside down because it won't line up. It doesn't, well, it sort of does, but not really. Put it back in there. So at this point, I like to put it down there. Now there's a piece of tape holding the speaker wire on. The speaker wire is pretty fragile, but in order to give us a little bit more room, I'm going to pull that tape off carefully. We don't want to break the wire off the board or the speaker. But that gives me a little bit more room. I'm also going to take this headset jack cover off and set that aside. Now there's one screw up here at the top. And the screws are the same, so we don't need to isolate them. And then there's two down here on the charging pins. You'll notice the charging pins are on top. So we put it back together. You're going to put the board in and then the charging pins. And let's make sure these screws are the same also. And they are. So all the screws are the same. There we go. Okay. Now that I've got those all out, I'm just going to pick this up and then flip it over here like that. Pull the rubber keypad off. Now, this one doesn't need to be repaired, but if you're fixing your buttons, it's going to be oily and gooped up, and this will be oily. The rubber keypad, you can clean it with rag and rubbing alcohol, or you can take it right to the sink with some hot water, hot soapy water, and maybe even a toothbrush if it's really nasty. Especially you can get all sorts of lint and dust and stuff out of there too. Just dry it off good and put it back in. On the circuit board, it's really important that we clean it up really good, and I'm gonna just dump some rubbing alcohol, like wet a rag, and then go over the buttons like that. The only thing you can break with rubbing alcohol is that microphone, and you'd really have to dump it on there. So as long as you're working with a wet rag, that's fine. You could use Q-tips if there's like spots of oily goo. I've also sometimes, it's built up so much that I've just dripped a little bit of rubbing alcohol on it, waited 30 seconds or so, and then it'll come off a lot easier. But you should get it nice and clean, and it should be nice and smooth feeling, not sticky at all. Okay, once that's cleaned up, we got this button repair, and line it up and make sure you got the right one, just in case you ordered the wrong one or we sent you the wrong one. You can line it up and see there's cutout notches for everything that goes around the mic, and all the buttons are there. Now these phones, they don't have LEDs for lighting up the buttons, but there is a spot for them, so I'm assuming there's another model of phone besides the 300 and 600 that this keypad will fit on. But anyway, to put this on, you just peel off the brown paper liner. I like to grab at a corner and just slowly peel it off. If you rip too fast, it probably tear, and then you'll get little pieces. So go slow and it'll come right off. And then this one, I'm going to use basically the microphone and then that notch up there to line up the keypad. Put it on the microphone, line up the notch. Very easy. Now, you just want to lay it down. I want it to be as flat as possible, so I'm not pushing. It's stuck there. It's not going to come off. And once you put it all together, it'll really be sandwiched in there. So at this point, we're ready to put the phone back together. You probably have dust and fingerprints on the display. You can use, I would use a dry part of the rag to rub it off. Unless it's won't come off, then you can use rubbing alcohol, but it'll leave a streak, so then you have to clean it off with a dry one, or dry Q-tips. If you have canned air for blowing out stuff, you can blow the dust out. And so this keypad's in place. I want to make sure none of the buttons are stuck, like crooked or, part way down. Looks good, and I'm just going to carefully flip that over. Like that. And I'm going to put the one screw up at the top near the antenna to keep it all in place. So these charging pins, they're right and left, so you can't swap them. They're not interchangeable. So what you want to do is there's pins, and you got only like this one won't fit over here. So they move over here. There's a pin on the side. That little hole right there that it fits down in. So then, make sure they're straight and not stuck in crooked or anything, and then put these screws back in. And you want this pretty snug, hand snug tight, because the the electricity goes through that screw and into the board. So if these are loose, your phone won't charge. And here's the headset jack cover. It's got a little, there's a notch next to it, and this slides right down in there. Ready to put the back on. Now, I untaped this wire. I don't need to tape it back on, but I want to make sure I don't pinch the wire under the housing when I put it back together. So I'm just going to kind of make sure it goes back in the center. That light pipe plastic is in there correctly. And I'm going to start up at the top because there's a giant clip up there, and just get that in place. And then, oop, headset jack cover fell out. Right now I can put it back in like that, and then just snap it back. The wires are sticking out, and that all lined up. So you got those two screws. Now let's see if I have a battery that fits this. Oh, that's too big. I don't know if this is charged up. No. But we're all set. I'm going to hook up power just to show you. Got a bench power supply here. Actually, while I'm here, these have to be pretty clean. They're very finicky, so you might want to clean those with rubbing alcohol if there's any corrosion from an old leaky battery. Anyway, okay, so we got all the buttons should work great now, and they'll never fail on you again because the oil and dirt are blocked and the contacts never wear out. That's it. Thanks for watching.